the one and only, the preacher's daughter, Holly Holm, who was kind enough to join us right here and now to talk about it. Hello, Holly. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm doing great.
And don't feel bad. I thought it was 12 threes for a while too.
Okay, really? Did you just find out right now, like me?
No, no, but because when they said we're fighting by men's rules, I'm like, well, men's rules is 12 threes.
Yeah. So why is it
But
10 threes? You don't know.
I just say okay.
How do you feel about the 3 minutes?
I feel good. I fought 5 minutes,
Sure.
2 minutes, and a lot of my MMA fights were 5 rounds. So I was already fighting 25 minutes with only the 4 minutes rest. So I just think everything has its own training. So I've been sparring for 30 minutes, and I'm ready either way.
Okay. I want to talk to you about this and the journey, but I do also want to mention last month was the 10-year anniversary of your win over Ronda Rousey, and there was a lot of hullabaloo about that. Did you celebrate? Did you throw yourself a little party? Did you sit back and watch? How did you do to commemorate the big moment?
I didn't. I forget about it, the actual date sometimes until I start seeing people tag me and stuff and say, oh, it's been 10 years. It is kind of crazy. It was 10 years. Time flies.
Yes.
I just don't feel like it was that long ago, but really for me, I've been in full training for this fight. And to me, it was almost a reminder that there's still greatness like in reach, there's still dreams to be had. I'm still chasing dreams, and it just motivated me to train harder for this fight and just to be able to have another big moment.
Can I ask, and I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but is there a moment, an interaction, a scene, something that happened that day in Melbourne or when you got back home to Albuquerque that will always stick with you? It was unbelievable being there. I'll never forget covering it. I'll never forget the reaction being in Albuquerque a few days later and seeing how proud everyone was of you. It was like the team won the Super Bowl. That's the way you are their team, right? That's the way they celebrated you. There was this big parade. But is there something that happened that week or that day in Australia that will always stick with you?
I mean, there's a lot of things, like obviously leading up to the fight that there was a lot of, just thoughts and feelings with all that. But there's a whole journey, like even just in the gym leading up to that fight. But I remember as soon as I dropped her and I knew it was over, I was like, yes, I did it. And then like within a split second, I like look at my corner and I'm like, we did it. And then like I see my, like my family, and I'm like, oh, we did it. And then I'm just thinking about like everybody like on the journey, on the way, like in your mind does like a lot of thoughts like real quick,
Yeah.
And I just like could feel the love. Like I could actually like feel it. Like I just imagined everybody at home, how proud they were because they've been supporting my career since I started. And so, well, I mean, I had to earn their love, right? Like some of the crosstown rivals that I fought when I first started boxing, but it's they learned to like learn about me because I didn't have a amateur boxing career, and then their love for me grew and their support for me grew, and then for them to be able to like bring that pride to them and come back home. But I do remember we were talking about a parade, and to be honest with you, I was just like, I don't know, I don't want to do that. I don't want people to feel like they have to go. I just felt like I don't want people to feel obligated, and I didn't really realize how much people just wanted to be part of it. And I didn't realize, but they had a parade, and I didn't know how many people were going to show up or what it is. And then as we were driving through, and the whole city was just there.
Wow.
I don't even know how many people were there, but it was unreal. And just like the feeling of love in that was really overwhelming. And it was just like, wow. I'm so glad I didn't pass up on that, because like I said, it wasn't for me. It was just like this pride for the whole city, for everything.
As of now, would you say that's the greatest moment of your career?
I think that it's definitely that height, but there's also other moments that, and I know I've mentioned it in some talks before, but I got knocked out in boxing a long time ago, and it was bad. Everybody was thinking I should retire and all these things, and then I had to come back and I rematched her and I beat her. And that was a very big moment for me as well, just in my own having to come back from something so devastating. So there are moments, and I'm not going to say that, but on the world scale, obviously winning the UFC title was definitely the biggest. But that doesn't mean that there wasn't moments that were almost that big, in other parts of my career. So every fight is the most important fight of your life, no matter what.
By the way, recently in interviews, Dana White talked about that time, and he said that he wanted you to wait for Ronda for the rematch, but you wanted to fight in March, and it was the Misha Tate fight, and obviously we know how that went, and he was saying that that was a big mistake, and he did not want you to take that fight. Do you remember that, and did you hear those comments, and is his version of the events how it actually went down?
There was never a promise of like, this is the rematch, she will be back. Here's what I said. I said, yes, I'll wait for the rematch. If it's not going to, like, do we know when? Like, I didn't know. I'm like, I want to be an active champion. And if I wouldn't have taken a fight, I think everybody would have been like, oh, she's just waiting around. I definitely would have taken a rematch, but there was really no promise of like, oh, this rematch is now. And there was never really any like full, I'm super thankful for all of my opportunities I had with the UFC, and I don't have any kind of negativity with them about my career. But I also would have definitely rematched her if I knew she was actually going to come back and be, we didn't, it was kind of like a open-ended kind of question. Like, when is she coming back? How long am I going to have to wait to fight? I did want to keep active. I'm a fighter. That's what I do. And I've always been open to a rematch with her. I still am. She's been training.
Okay. So what do you make of this? What do you make of this?
Right now I'm just boxing, but it's just one of those things. It's like I've always been open to a rematch with Ronda. I just don't know if she ever wanted to have one. And like I said, not spitting out negativity with Dana, with UFC, nothing. I wound up fighting. It was Misha Tate and I on the co-main with Connor, and that was a big fight. The only thing I regret about that is that I lost focus and lost the fight in the last round. That's my only regret. But I've always been open for a rematch with Ronda, and the offer still stands. I'm still here.
Do you think she comes back? Do you actually think she comes back?
I don't know if she does. Here's the thing about any athlete. She's been an Olympian. She's been a champion. And you don't get to that point without having that fight in you. So you can't ever count anybody out. Maybe she does. I would never have like thought it or seen it. She's got a family. Nothing wrong with that. Maybe she's just enjoying her life that way. Maybe she's loving being able to get back into training and things like that. Maybe she's like, you know what? I really miss this. I want to try it. I left boxing when I did MMA full time. I thought I would never go back to boxing. And here I am back in boxing because I started to miss it. So if she actually wanted to, I don't think it, but I also don't count it out. Any athlete that's been fighting or at the top level, they got there because they had passion, not just by chance. So if she feels that and wants to come back and do something, great.
How do you think it would go if she fought Katie Taylor?
Obviously, I think anybody can always go out and say, oh my gosh, like in boxing alone, Katie Taylor would just piece her up, her combos and her speed and all this stuff. But I'm always like, anything can happen. Ronda still has some power and some heat behind her punches, and sometimes a little bit more of an unorthodox style. But sometimes that off timing, or sometimes that, can actually make a fight interesting. It can almost be, sometimes a fighter can almost be less predictable if they're not super boxing polished, or, she's working on it. So I'm not going to sit here and talk crap one way or the other on it. If she comes back, great. I'd like to be the one she fights if she comes back, boxing or MMA.
Okay. One last thing on this era, if I can. You just said something that I thought was interesting. Had I not lost focus in the final round of that fight against Misha, I wouldn't have lost. What did you mean by that? How did you lose focus?
It's just one of those things. I just kind of kept like not. It's like I know things that we're doing right in the fight to work, And I think just in my head, it's like, oh, last round, I just got to finish this round because I knew I was ahead on the scorecards. And rather than just being really on my toes for that whole last round, and I don't take anything away from any opponents that I've ever fought, but it's just, man, I always wanted that rematch. I asked for it through my whole career. We both asked for it. Not even two. Like, I would always have taken that fight. And obviously I want to avenge any loss I have. And I'll also always give someone a rematch if they ever, from a win, if they want a rematch. I feel like it's just the sport is like that sometimes, but, I don't regret fighting as a champion, and I definitely would have rematched Ronda. What was she going to come back and rematch? I don't know. I said, I don't want to wait forever. I want to fight.
I
So
understand that.
if we have like a date that she's like, yes, I'll be back. Like, this is how many months I need. This is, when I got knocked out in boxing, it's like, yeah, I want a rematch. And I said, let's do it. And I rematched her 6 months later.
I felt about a year ago or so, like, your UFC and then the GFL thing and all that. I really felt like you didn't want to leave MMA, and not reluctant, but like you were just kind of like, I did the boxing thing. And now I feel like once you got that first fight out of the way in June, I feel like this love and this excitement surround kind of ending your story in boxing has been reinvigorated. Now, like, you're all in. Is that a fair assessment of how you felt?
It is.
Yeah.
But and don't get me wrong, I still miss MMA.
Mm-hmm.
I do. I miss MMA. But after being back in the boxing ring, it's like, wow, just maybe a little bit more of a reminder, like I love this too. And I enjoyed my fight. I enjoyed being back in the ring. But also then with that being said, there's just like, there's things that spark my interest and things that spark with my passion and things like that. And it's like, I never got to fight at 135 in boxing. And that's where some of the biggest fights are right now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, oh, I can come back and still, there is one thing that no matter what, that is in my whole career, boxing or MMA, I've always wanted to be fighting the top girls for big fights. I never wanted to be a paper champion and just get easy fights to rack up wins. I've never wanted to do that. I've always wanted to fight the tough girls or the big fights. And so coming back and having, 135 is where a lot of the competition is, and where, you look at the fights with Amanda Serrano and Katie Taylor, and it's like, those are huge fights in women's boxing. And how awesome that I can come back. I know Amanda Serrano says she's going to stay at 125, so that fight wouldn't happen. And all respect for her, But there's I get a fight for a championship belt in this weight class. And I have goals and dreams. I always say goals and dreams. My goal, win this fight. A dream, have another big fight with one of the biggest names in women's boxing currently. Not from way back then but currently. Mm-hmm.
So I don't feel like Katie Taylor versus Ronda Rousey is a real thing, but I feel like if Holly Holm wins on January 3rd, you versus Katie in Ireland is a very real thing and a massive fight. Have you been told the same?
I've not been told the same, but definitely I talk about it, and it's definitely something that's like this. It's not like I've like talked with Katie or we're talking with our camp or anything like that, but it's also like definitely a real fight. And I think she's always challenged herself with a challenge in her career too. And I have Irish heritage.
Yeah.
I would love to fight in Ireland. I have a lot of Irish fans. Guaranteed she's going to have more Irish fans. But to be able to go fight in Ireland and have a big fight like that is huge. For me, I have to make sure I do my job January 3rd. And like I said, there's goals and dreams. I would love to be able to have that fight after this. But obviously, making it happen, it always opens the next door. So I need to make this happen. I need to win January 3rd. And so I've been training hard for it.
So I've had the great pleasure of interviewing you a bunch of times, either here on the show or in person before or after events. But never in the ring or in the cage after a win on the broadcast. I got to do that in June, and ever since then, it's been 6 months, Holly, and I'm still kicking myself. I'm still lamenting. I screwed it up. I forgot that
Well, how?
you do the backflip, and I got in your
Oh,
way.
yeah.
Do you remember this? I screwed up your moment. Here you are, getting your hand raised. I'm getting excited to speak to you, and you're like, "Hey, chump, get the hell out of the way. Get out of the way. Look at this. Get the F out. We got to do the backflip." How much did you hate me? Look at you and you didn't miss a beat. I screwed it up. How much did you hate me in that moment?
I didn't, but
Okay.
here's the thing. There was a fight I did, like, so I always, like, okay, I knew I won the fight, right? I felt it in my heart and all that, but still, I wait till the actual decision has been announced. So that's why I waited till after it was like, okay, this is the winner. Then I do the backflip.
Because you don't want to do
So
it
it's like,
prematurely.
right.
Right.
You want to do it like, yeah, this is, I mean, I knew I won, but also it's like, let's wait till they say I won and then I'll do it. And, but then at that moment, though, is when everybody does come talk. So it's not the first time. I've had to be like, hold on.
Okay,
hold
all
on.
right. Because I felt bad. I thought I ruined your moment.
No, and I don't know. Do you know the story of the backflip?
I don't. Tell me.
Okay, so I got knocked out. My very first time ever getting knocked out was in kickboxing a long time ago. And after the fight, I was just so nervous for the fight. And Coach Wink was like, hey, everybody does back handsprings, which, okay, in MMA, they'll do backflips off the cage and all this. I'm not that fancy. But in boxing, you don't really see that. You don't really see like a lot of that. And people might do this or that, or they jump up on the ropes. And he's like, a lot of people don't do backflips. You think you could do a backflip after? I said, if I do it off your hands, then it's easy because I'll be exhausted and I'm not trying to fall on my head in front of everybody. And he's like, you're going to win this fight. So it's my first time having to come back, and he's like, you're going to win this fight, and we're going to do a backflip. So we go out of town, and I knock the girl out in the second round. And then, like, after the decision, he's, like, looking through the rope, because we practiced it a couple times at the gym, and he's like, so do you want to do the backflip? And I was like, oh, yeah, let's do it. So then it just started. It's like, all right, so every time there's a win, so it's been forever. That was before, I mean, gosh, that was like way back in like the beginning of my career, so
have you hit it every time?
Been one of those things. What's that?
Have you hit it every time?
Yeah, I've never fallen.
Okay.
So that's been good.
No slipping.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah.
Well, it looked like you had been doing it for many years when you did it on that night. And I'm wondering, now that you had one under your belt, could you tell us honestly, what were your thoughts on MVP Nikisa Jake beforehand? And how do you feel about what they've been doing ever since you signed with them? All the women that they've signed, the big names, they just signed Caroline Dubois, the Olympian from just a few years ago, silver medalist. Like they have clearly amassed the best roster of women's boxers in the history of the game. And it's very clear what they're trying to do here. What did you think about them beforehand? And then now getting to do an event with them back in June in Anaheim, how that experience went?
Even before I fought with them, I saw what they were doing I think the biggest thing was just watching what they're doing with women's boxing. And it's real boxers. I know that from the boxing standpoint. And I thought it was great that they're actually giving a platform to these women boxers that have deserved it. And so I've always had respect for that. I know, with Jake Paul coming into things, he came in from, all this social media, the YouTube type stuff. So a lot of people sometimes, I think, mix those two things. But him and Nikisa really have opened up doors for women's boxing in a way that others really haven't. And it's changed women's boxing, and hopefully it's changed it forever. And also putting on good women's fights. I think a lot of times women's boxing that was on TV was, like a swing bout that was thrown in because there was an early knockout or something, but it's not necessarily showcasing the best women's boxers. I fought on television a few times, handful of times when I was boxing, Fox Sports Net, ESPN2. I fought on an undercard of Johnny Tapia way back in the day, and I was a swing bout, but it's just, I feel like there was never really like this platform like, hey, let's get some of the best boxers and put them on there and showcase their actual skills. And I don't feel like I know that MVP has done that for women's boxing. So I have had respect for that since before I ever even, talked with them. So talking with them, I knew that they've already put their efforts for women's boxing. And then after working with him, it's been nothing but professional and respectful, and it's been great. So I have no, everything's been honestly just good and positive.
Jake Joshua this Friday. What do you think happens?
Gosh, I don't think anybody looking at this can't say, wow, Jake's got some guts to be able to step in like that. And there's good boxers that won't even take a fight with Joshua. So I mean, and Jake Paul has proved himself through this, but what I'm saying is, like, there's some that have been doing that their whole life that still, and Jake going up, fighting a bigger fight and all that, we'll see what happens. But I do think that like I said, in my mind, I'm always like, well, we'll see what happens. You never know. But this is a huge fight, and I don't think anybody can doubt the fact that Jake's got guts to get in there, and he's going to go in with every intention of winning, and we'll see what happens in the fight. But this is a big fight.
Yes.
To be taken on.
Yours is big as well for other reasons. January 3rd in Puerto Rico. How much do you know about Stephanie Han, and what kind of a challenge is she for you? Obviously, a lot younger in the game, but she is the champion going into this fight.
She is a lot younger. She is the champion. And I definitely have more fights on my record. I've got more fights under my belt, but she also has a lot more of a lengthy amateur career. So she's got still a lot of experience through her life with fighting, kickboxing or boxing. And she's very disciplined. She's a hard worker. She's tough. She believes in herself, and she shows up to fight. Those are the things that I do know, and those are the things that make her a good opponent and make her, a threat. But I'm definitely ready. I feel like bigger, stronger, tougher, more experience, and a little more gritty.
Can't wait. Good luck, Holly. Thanks as always.
Thank you.
Appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Happy holidays.
Thanks.
Can't wait for the fight. And of course, good luck on January 3rd. It's going to be great.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. There she is, the preacher's daughter, Holly Holm. Great stuff there. Interesting stuff regarding Katie Taylor, regarding Ronda Rousey, Jake Paul, her boxing future. I really did feel when she was sort of trying to figure out what she wanted to do post UFC, and then there was the GFL stuff. Remember, it was about a year ago now, the draft. It was in January of 25. She was like, do I want to do this? And then I think she got that fight out of the way in June. That was the Jake Paul JCC Junior card. And then she said, you know what, I like this. And I think that MVP won her over, and now here she is fighting for the belt. And I think the winner could fight Katie Taylor next, if it's her. If it's Stephanie Han, I'm not sure if it's going to be Stephanie Han versus Katie Taylor. But man, Holly Holm versus Katie Taylor in Ireland would be a really, really big deal. Thanks for watching this video. Before you go, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button for us. Also, give us a thumbs up, leave a nice comment. These things go a long way. And while you're here, do check out the rest of the channel. We've got live shows and full interviews, clips, and a whole lot more. We're doing big things here, and we appreciate your support very much.